Okay, I'd like to call to order the Royal Oak Downtown Development Authority informational meeting of October 16, 2019. This is a informational meeting required by statute. And we will have public comment. However, there will also be public comment for the regular meeting. So you're welcome to come up with public comment for this, but so I'm going to open public comment at this time for anybody who wants to speak at the informational meeting. If not, I don't see anybody out there. What's the difference? This is, yes. So we're gonna go over what we've outlined in our budget for the year and whatever, and then that meeting will be over, then we'll start what would ordinarily be the meeting that would ordinarily have started 7 minutes ago. And Laura Harrison.
5 minutes? Is that what you're taking?
What, for public comment?
No, for your public for your information.
Oh, I don't know how long, Tim, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Gonna take 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
The new
Can we
law.
ask questions after you inform us, or do we have to ask questions?
Well, you could ask questions at the regular meeting about this informational meeting.
That would take longer.
Well,
My questions don't work. Can I ask questions after you inform us right now, or do you need us to public comment now?
we kind of need you to public comment now, but you're more than welcome, because public comment's going to happen in a crack right after this meeting's over. You'll be able, it's almost like I am allowing you to do that, though I'm not. So, okay, but I
Well,
mean,
thank you for letting me not do it, but yes.
okay, no problem. I'll be always willing to not let you do something. All right, so does anybody want to talk here today? Nobody? On this meeting? Okay, so I'm going to close public comment, and Mr. Twing, pass it over to you.
Well, as you indicated, the purpose of the informational meeting is a new requirement under the Public Act 57 of 2018. It requires that the DDA hold 2 informational meetings each year. It also requires that notice of those meetings occur 14 days prior to the meeting. That's why it's listed as 2 separate things, in order to accomplish that posting as well as to hold your regular meeting. So we've posted that 14-day notice. The informational meeting, there's not a specific requirement as to what's in that, other than a discussion of what your projects may or may not be, and your goals and objectives. So your first informational meeting of 2019, and according to the State Treasury's Office, they have to occur in the same calendar year rather than a fiscal year. So we're going to hold one this month, and then we'll hold our second one in December. What's on the agenda, or what's been posted, are the goals and objectives that the DDA passed for 2019-20 fiscal year, as well as a copy of your 2019-20 Development Fund budget, which basically identifies what your goals were, and the budget identifies what you've actually allocated funds towards in terms of projects. There is no required action on the informational meeting, so there's no need for a motion. I guess if you have questions, I'll be happy to ask or answer what's items on the agenda today. In terms of your December informational meeting, it's my hope that the city audit will be done in time for your annual report for the fiscal year that ends June 30th, 2019, so that we could have that information on that, as well as have a copy of the report that's required to be filed with the state under that Act 57. And hopefully we'll also have a list of all your agreements that you have with various vendors and other activities, so you'll have that list as well for review. So that's the intent to have for your December meeting. I don't have anything else to add. Apparently, according to the informational meeting, you don't even need to have a quorum, so there's no action necessary. Unless you've got questions, I think you can close this and move on to your regular meeting.
Anybody at all? Okay. And again, pretty much everything here is stuff that has either already appeared on an agenda this year, or would shortly. So, seeing no questions or anything, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by There's moving a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Okay, now, I'd like to open I'm not gonna hit the gavel thing again. Our regular meeting of October 16, 2019. I'm gonna call that to order. Now I'm gonna open public comment. And Mr. Gomez? You're quick.
That was the plan. George Gomez, 2018 Guthrie Avenue in Royal Oak. First, I want to thank all of you for allowing the public to make even comments at this kind of a meeting, because really, this is what you folks do for a business and a living, and I really trust that, you know, you're doing some of the things for your own best interest. But when it affects the community, or I see things that might affect you, I just kind of like to bring it back up. So I do appreciate you at least even hearing us out. With Jay Dunstan moving on, which is such an important influence and a position in your group. What I'm not clear on is the role in which you're going to use, or the process you're going to use in order to replace such a member here. And I think each individual member has to have a certain interest and direction and value that they bring to your group. And I just am hoping that that's going to be more of an open opportunity for the business community, if nothing else. I know I've talked to a few of the owners in town, and not everyone seems to be as aware, and they wonder what their opportunities are going to be in order to hear who might you consider, or the city will consider, actually, I think is who does the appointment. But I do hope it's not a closed session kind of a thing, because really each of you have a dramatic effect on what actually ends up as a result in the city. The other thing I'm not clear on is, I try to look it up, and maybe it's just my ignorance, is when the infrastructure group meets, so that if we have questions like on why are we putting a restaurant facility, I think is what you're considering designs for, in a parking structure, it just really throws me off, because I've noticed how many restaurants are currently closed. You know, so there are structures downtown where there are businesses trying to move in, I would think you guys would want to fill, but yet it sounds like you're developing another concept within a parking structure that might even compete with your own membership. And I just don't, I guess I don't get it, and I've been trying to listen in on your meetings to understand that direction versus some kind of a service, maybe a drop-off cleaners. I don't know. I don't even know what you want to put in there and why you guys are so invested in that open space, but other than the fact you paid so much toward that structure. But I guess I need to sit in on it a little bit more to see why are you competing. It's bad enough I think sometimes we compete with the city over ideas, but now you're competing amongst each other to put in some kind of a restaurant environment when we have so many that are still empty. So just a thought. Thank you.
All right, thank you, George. Ms. Harrison?
Laura Harrison, 2729 Trafford. And I have a question before what I am here about is a request for the parking group. Do I tell you now? Okay, all right. What I will do, if you would take one and pass it on, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
Our infrastructure committee ordinarily handles the parking.
Yeah, I know.
Let's spread the
This is
pain
not
today.
a big deal, but it is a big deal
Sure.
for where we are, okay? Kind of in your mind, the road between the railroad tracks that runs along the railroad track between 4th and 5th, behind the buildings like the Kleba building to Camp Fitters building, that block right there.
Right.
Now, I'm talking about the road that runs behind it, okay,
Parallel to the tracks.
parallel to the tracks. This is what I'm asking for. I would like to reverse the one-way entrance. You come in on 4th and go out on 5th, okay?
Yeah, right.
Right. Because the railroad has put that thingy in the middle of the road, you know, what, I don't know what it's called, Tim?
The island?
Yeah, the island,
The
thank
city
you.
put that in.
Who?
The city
Well,
put that in.
whoever, I don't care. the trucks can't get in, they can't, you know how trucks are, they have to swing out to pull in. Well, they can't do it. And because there's so much going on right now, what I would like to see it reversed so that they can come in on Fifth Street, or they can come off of Main and come across Center Street and go right straight into it, and then exit onto Fourth Street, and they could either, you know, on an angle, go out around the island turning left, or if they can manage it, turn right and go over toward Main. That's my first request.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest that you take this to the traffic committee rather than the parking committee, because it really doesn't have anything as far as parking to go versus traffic flow.
Well,
The
now,
engineering.
I haven't
and-
finished.
well, that's in regards to your first request, though.
Okay, all right.
And I'd be happy to pass it on to the engineering department to
Okay.
coordinate that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't change directions on streets.
Oh, boo-hoo.
I know.
The truck
Otherwise-
drivers are.
I know.
I'd gotten a bit of a tiff with one of the truck drivers, because he just said, the thing is too, when they pull in, it's the parking. And this is why my second request, which involves removing the parking spaces on the west side of that. Because we've got, first of all, the Klebas building and the old Winkleman's building. They're lot line to lot line to lot line to lot line. So there is no way, you have, you know, they have no place to put their garbage. No place, none, zero. Right now, they're putting in a beauty shop. Used to be, when Hallmark was there on the corner, there's a little space where there's steps right there on the end where you can do it. But you're putting in something that has a lot more garbage than a retail store, you know. And I've seen them already put it on 4th Street, along the wall on 4th Street. You know, come on, guys. You know, so we need space there. And I have talked to Lori. I have talked to another building owner that owns Gale's building. I've talked to him. And I talked to my husband, because he's the owner of the buildings. I just 50% of it. I take the money, he runs the building.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. Anyhow, what I'd like to see is remove, there's like, I think I counted, and I tried to get in there tonight to double check. There's like 4 parking spaces right behind the building. Then there's the open space where the parking lot is for our building and for that restaurant that's there now.
Right.
Then you've got a walkway, because Luigi's got to go in the back way and down, and the same with Gale's building.
Right.
So we've got an issue. So there's 4 spaces there. Then there's an open space. And then there's another open space, because Hopcat has put their garbage on their property, but they've got a gate now, so you can't park in front of the gate. So that's taken away a couple of spaces already. So that leaves like 2 or 3, and then there's an open space for the little building that
Right.
faces where the shoemaker used to be. And there's 1 parking space
spot.
right.
Right.
I would like to see those just removed. And now that we've got a brand-new parking structure over there,
Right.
I don't think everybody will have a heart attack if we remove 6 or 7 spaces from there. I was going to suggest both sides, but I found out from Lori that when her customers come to pick up a printing order, she will tell them to pull in there, because they're only there for 10 minutes, knock on the back door and get their stuff and get out of there, because that's all they're doing. So it's like a pickup area for her. So I just thought that if we remove it, at least help, so it would be wide enough for a car to get around a truck, but also to put the trash cans there. So that's my proposal
Okay.
to you. I will talk to, you know, I think if we remove the parking first, and then.
Well, what I was gonna say is, I think if you took this to traffic, and if they agreed with you about reversing the flow and all that, and they suggested removing the parking, I can't really speak for everybody up here, but I don't think anybody here would have an objection with that if they felt that was the
I
right
would-
way to go.
I-
I can't really say, although I guess today I can say whatever the heck I want.
Well-
But anyhow, I don't think anybody up here, as the DDA, as the parking committee, would have a problem with losing
Thank
those
you.
spots.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but we can't change direction.
Well, that's
'Cause
why I'm
If we
here.
did,
I understand
Yeah.
the changing directions, but
yeah.
like I say, you can't get down there, so, and the trucks do park there for deliveries and stuff.
All
So
right.
if we could just at least remove the one side and, you know, maybe see how it works.
I certainly
I'd
understand
really
the issue.
appreciate it,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
Now, one other thing,
okay,
please. First of all, Jay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much for everything you've done. I appreciate it, okay?
All right, thank you
All
very
right.
much, Laura.
And we need,
Say hi to the old man. Yeah,
I'm going away for the weekend. He gets to batch it.
yeah, okay, good. With all that money you're making off those buildings. All right, who's next for public comment? Mr. Wolf?
Ron Wolf, 333 North Troy Street. This is the way I like to see a meeting run. Great. You know, I learned one thing from a lot of friends in the restaurant business. Everything, but they're all concerned about table turnover. And the times that you don't have a lot of turnover are before 6 o'clock. So, and you have some things ongoing here that are a bit confusing. First thing, I was just discussing this with Judy. Some people are confused about the 2-hour free parking. They think that it's only before 5 o'clock. So I would suggest you put a sign in front of every parking lot, arrive any time before 5 and receive 2-hour free parking. That spells it out real clear. The other thing is, the Senior Tuesday thing, which has kind of been relegated to the Restaurant Association. If you could somehow put these two things together, the fact that you have 2-hour free parking before 5, and then you have the 20% discount for seniors before 6 together, and they can post this sign in the windows. I don't know who would print the sign, whether you guys or the Restaurant Association. That would make people want to come back to Royal Oak, or at least have lunch here, instead of having lunch on Woodward. You see, the problem is today, most people who are working only get a half an hour for lunch. So you guys are in deep trouble, because people only have a half an hour for lunch, can't spend a lot of money. They just grab a sandwich. But if you bring seniors down who have time in their hands and to fill that niche, I think that'll be terrific, really work. Now, here's something else I'm going to throw at you. Royal discount days. Go back to the 80s. Remember those you would see a whole page in the paper, and in a mall, let's say you have a mall, and every store in the mall would have their own little ad, come to this mall. Well, think of Royal Oak as a giant mall. Royal discount days, and every place has a little coupon to come visit, a reason to come to Royal Oak on this day, or this week. And it's, you're doing a great job with the Royal Restaurant Week, but a lot of people, in other words, here it is in every paper, in the whether it's in the Review or the Oakland Tribune, they just rip out the coupon of their favorite restaurant. This brings back memories also of the Metro Pass book. They see the couple of things they like, they cut it out and they present it to the restaurant. So. These are just two practical ideas. And the other thing I want to quickly mention, I got a kick out of seeing a lot of this show on PBS about places that have no cars downtown. And it hit me that, how about a bicycle weekend, a downtown bicycle weekend, where you close off Main and Washington and invite families to bring their kids and bicycles downtown. And I think that would be inexpensive, And I know some people would say, oh, we're gonna lose our customers that like to park in front of our place. Well, you're only talking about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 customers that park on the street. Whereas if you have a lot of bicycles running around, you provide the bike racks, people are gonna come from all over to enjoy bicycling downtown. Now, I don't wanna I know I'm throwing a lot at you. One other thing, the fountain for the park, you wanna fill up the parking structures, you put a nice fountain, as I mentioned in my handout, and that will fill out that will take care of that problem, because people like to see moving things. There was a thing on TV about someone who built a park between 2 freeways with something like only 30 seats. And people actually come down there and sit in those seats, and they listen to the cars going up and down the freeways. Anything that's moving and has life, people are interested in. And a fountain with moving water brings life. So that's why I think it's real important to put as much money as possible into the downtown park. And that will also fill up your parking structures. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wolf. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. Carol Hennessy, 258 East 12 Mile. First thing, I'd like to thank Jay for everything he's done for the city and for the DDA, and we appreciate everything you've done, and
Thank you.
we hope we continue to see you around.
Probably will.
Okay, good. Okay, I went to the farmer's market to see the plans for the memorial monument. And I really didn't care for any of them. I had a meeting with the Memorial Society, and I showed them the plans, and none of them cared for them either. What we noticed was the Star Dream is staying where it's at, and the sidewalk going to the market in front of the library is staying there. They changed the name to Market Plaza, and Mr. Harrison corrected them and told them it was Veterans Memorial Plaza, and so they changed it. So you, as the DDA that's paying for this park, I think you should have a big decision on it. And what I am suggesting is keeping it where it's at. It's got the grass in front of it where people come and sit and reflect or pray or just meditate at the monument. Leave the arborvitaes behind it, and on the other side of the arborvitaes, put a floral garden there, something beautiful. Every park likes to see, likes to have flowers, and people could see all the flowers and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't cost you anything to move the monument. It would still be in a serene, quiet, reflecting place. Probably none of you have sat there as long as I have, or as many times as I have, to see what goes on. But there's a lot of people that stop there. There's flowers left there. There's notes left there. Dear Grandpa, I miss you, or uncle or father, or a loved one, or a friend. And when it was down here, nobody came to it. And the problem I had with them putting it in the new park area, it's all open. One area, there's a splash, or I don't want to say splash pad because it's just one area where water's going to be shooting up where kids can run through it. Well, that's in front of it's going to be in front of the memorial on that plan. Well, that's not making it respectable, to our veterans. Another plan was in the corner, and they had trees all around it. So to have a service there, the trees are going to be in the way, and you really don't want a lot of trees by the monument because of the birds. We saw what happened here. And, let's see, the other one, I think, was in the corner where they would be having musical events and things like that in the park. Well, to me, that's not respecting them, our veterans, at all. So I think if we kept it where it's at, it's going to get the respect that we want it to get, and it's not going to interfere with the park, and it's still going to be a beautiful area, you know. So I just wanted to let you know that this is what the Memorial Society is suggesting, and I am as well, because we want it to be special, and we want people to come and reflect and talk to their loved ones, you know. So that's all I have to say.
All
But
right,
we're going to miss you.
So, thank you. So the Memorial Society, they met, they have this opinion. Can they put that down on paper and send it, maybe send an email? You could send an email to me, and I'll make sure whoever ends up here on the DDA taking my spot on that committee, I'll make sure it gets in front of them, and they, in turn, can present it to the entire committee, if you haven't already done that.
No,
Okay,
absolutely,
let's
I'll
do
do
that.
that. Yeah, it's just, you know, a lot of the plans for the park were great, but the memorial's getting lost in there. So that's why I think if it stays, it'll be a better place.
Okay, very
Okay,
good. Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else out there? You can comment either about this agenda or about the previous agenda. Seeing none? All right, I'll close public comment. On to the approval of the meeting minutes from August 21st. I know all of you have looked them over carefully.
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I believe the next item is our monthly expenses, and let's see, as I recall, there wasn't any action items here,
No.
but
got 2
questions?
months.
No, you got two?
The action items on these?
You got 2 months there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
2 months.
Just, and Sean's not here, he'd be the one to address this, but just in seeing, the, pedicab, payment there, I just wanted to make sure that we're gonna get updates on that and that we don't wait too long, that we find out, you know, how they're doing with regard to, selling advertising and what have you, going into the,
Going into next year.
Going into
I
next
know he's
year.
had conversations with them, but I know they plan on putting a plan together, but
Okay.
I don't think they've done that at this point.
Okay,
but-
I just want to make sure we stay on it, and then, in fact, I spoke with Director Bagley yesterday about a couple different things, and maybe a couple different ideas, to toss around to incentivize, local businesses, merchants, restaurateurs, retailers, whatever, to promote. In other words, if there's something that maybe we can meet them on, the DDA can give them, to incentivize them to promote. I think it's something that's worth talking about, whether it's at the business marketing committee level or the consumer marketing committee level, something that we keep out there. In other words, I don't want to get into a situation where it's like, because I think it's something that has a very hip factor to it and something that we need to continue to do. And if these guys can't get out there and you know, find the right connections to sell it, we need to help them somehow. And I'd rather do it on our terms and as opposed to just stroking the check at the last minute.
Good point. Director Spine, do you have something?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Anybody with any other questions or comments about this item? All right, seeing none, we'll move ahead. What do we got now? Oh, the Rock and Ride sponsorship 2020, 2021. And I guess,
We do have a memo, the DDA did receive a request to continue the sponsorship, similar to the terms that you provided under the agreement for 2019. If you so choose to continue under those same terms, the resolution is for staff to prepare a revised agreement for your consideration at the November meeting. If you have revised items and would like to know those, or if you don't support it, that's fine too. But before we draft it or make adjustments to the agreement, we've got a request to continue.
I just have one quick question. Do we have dates yet for this?
Mr. Witz, why don't you come on up?
Gonna look for them? June 19th.
Okay.
2020.
6, 19.
John, how about for 21? Do you have dates for 21 also, or not?
I do. June 18 through 20, 2021.
Thank you.
Handicap? Is that what you were talking about?
No, it's for Rock and
No,
Rise.
Rock and Rides.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is, basically like the tail, because the auto show is in June this time, right?
It is,
So
yeah, this is the
like
second weekend
right
of the
after.
auto show. No, it's the actual second weekend of the auto show.
Okay. I thought I saw the auto show end on the 20th, right? Is that wrong? I may have said,
If it could end on a Saturday versus a Sunday.
I think
I'm
it
not
does.
familiar.
Okay, all right, that's
Interesting.
it. All right,
Did
cool.
not know that. That would surprise me. But we can look that up too.
Look it up, let me know what you find out.
You got it.
The only other thing I would add is I have not seen the cost recovery sheet yet from, I know that police have put something out, but I have not seen the actual cost recovery sheet from DPS or, so I can't tell you what those costs were for 2019 yet.
And what we did in 19 is that we had a max of 17.5, correct? So whatever they were with a max of 17.5.
Yeah, and we would take up any difference, and we've been assured, or in verbal conversations with the chief on the cost of meters and police, that it was under the 17.5. But our agreement specifically states that we would cover anything above the 17.5.
Okay.
We would be prepared to do that as well.
Yeah, okay, and basically, so what we're doing is we're approving a two-year extension or the two-year
No,
addendum?
you're simply directing staff to modify the agreement with the dates and the terms.
Okay.
So we'd bring back the actual agreement next month, and then you'd authorize signatures.
Okay, okay.
And I would just ask as part of that resolution that you agree to do it so that we know in our ability to pursue sponsors, Carnival, lock in people, that we know that you guys have agreed to do that by directing staff. So the signed agreement is obviously not happening today or tomorrow or next week. But
Gotcha.
that's important thing that I've stated to members of the board.
Dr. Nesbitt.
Yes, this is a two-year agreement or extension, but I would like to request that next month, or at least before next year's event, and the following year before that event, that you come before the Consumer Marketing Committee, and you've indicated a willingness to, and even a desire to do it, to talk about, the event, what went well, what maybe we could be improved, talk about inclusivity, some ideas how to get
Sure.
more folks involved. So it's not necessarily a good topic for a DDA meeting, but for the subcommittee, it would be an excellent idea to come and talk about those issues.
Yeah, in response to that, Tony, I think there's two elements related to that. One, just on the music front, I think one of the aspects of the event that can be improved would be raising the quality of music to maybe get to a national level on Fifth Street. Just the local bands in combination with the family activity was not as successful as we would have liked, and we would certainly, in the first year, try and raise the funding to build a stage that was just a little bit bigger and that could host a band. The two bands I would target, one for each night, ironically, would be the same two bands that Royal Oak used for New Year's Eve 2 years ago, because they'd be the kind of bands that you could that we know have been successful, which would be the Gin Blossoms and the Romantics. I mean, they're the type of acts that I think that could take the event to the next level and not be cost prohibitive. So that's one aspect, and then the other aspect would be to involve the retail community and potentially incorporate a sidewalk sale on Washington where you wouldn't need to close streets. You know, I think one thing that I would just state in advance of that is, we can say that, but I would rather go door to door, maybe with some of your help, because I think to not have 85 to 90% of the retail establishments participating would also leave a rough impression if we only had 5 or 6 businesses doing it and we put them into a marketing campaign. But the idea of creating the event and adding, using our marketing to promote the shopping aspects of the city is something we're absolutely open to, and we look forward and certainly agree to meeting at the consumer level to discuss that and make changes for this, for this year.
I'll make a motion to move the resolution as written. It sounds like it was a good event in the past. Seems like there's room to improve, which is good. So I think it's something that's worth pushing forward.
I got a motion by Director Krieger.
Question before. So the 17.5, do you know how much of that was related to the public costs?
Yeah, the 17.5 was, the 17.5 is all going to city costs, and 17.5 went toward the event, so the.
Okay, so all of it's going to the public costs for
Yes,
this year.
exactly.
Okay, I have a motion, but I don't have a second.
Yeah, I'll give support, but the quick question, the music component is included for the next couple of years, correct?
Yeah, there is a local level of music at, high local level bands, and our goal would be to raise the funding to try and increase that. It certainly is to our advantage. There is a gate element to the event, so if we can get a band that draws, their 2,000 or 3,000 people, it's to the event's advantage to figure out how to do that, and we might not even need all the sponsorship. We might speculate and say, if we got 50% of the cost of the bands, that we would speculate and hope to make up the rest on the gate.
No, I'll move support. I would say that, for the first year, I thought it did very well. And I think this is the kind of event that is gonna grow with each year. And I think it's, it makes all the sense in the world to extend it 2 more years, to see what goes on. And with Mr. Witz's track record, I think we'll all be satisfied with
I'd like to just make 2 comments or 3 for some of the folks who've not heard some of the behind the scenes, elements of it. There were 30 to 35,000 people there for a first year event. The success of the carnival and the ride participation. This carnival was at the River Days Festival in Detroit. If we took the participation on rides from Royal Oak in year 1, it would be the 2nd best carnival in River Days history. So just to show you the power of the first event. Now, perfect weather plays a role in that, and that's why the support is so important. We don't have any sponsors officially lined up yet, so getting this, approval and support helps us really hit the pavement hard and make sure we're funded. So the attendance was good. There was $20,000 to local nonprofits that also came from the event, which was what I had projected as well. And then the last thing is as we did last year, and I think Tim can attest to this, you had approved it, you had approved money for us. We didn't even ask for the money until we knew the sponsors were lined up. So if we do not line up the sponsors, then, we will withdraw the ability to do it. We will not go forward without something that's fiscally responsible for all parties involved. So just wanted to share that as well.
Anything else? Anybody? No. All right, we got a motion on the table. No further comments, seeing as much. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay. Anything else?
Jay, just unrelated but related, I guess. I'm just wondering if we could possibly add an item for discussion, maybe at the end of the agenda, regarding Mr. Witz's request to extend the agreement for Arts Beats and Eats. I don't necessarily look for this group to take any action today, although I suppose you could if you wanted to, but we are planning to take the request to the City Commission at our next meeting on the 28th. And I think it might be beneficial to the discussions we have on the 28th if we can at least get some indication as to where the DDA stands on a potential 3-year extension of that agreement.
Well, as long as we got Mr. Witz here right now, why don't we?
We can do it now.
Because I don't think anybody else here is waiting on any other item except possibly Joseph. But he's a very patient gentleman, so why don't we tackle this now then? But okay. So an additional 2 years is what you're saying?
The request that I've received that's gonna be going to the city commission is for a 3-year
3 years,
extension.
okay.
Through
Right,
2024.
and we are asking if we could get approval today, not the agreement signed, but the approval to do the agreement based on not changing the financial support level of the DDA and not changing any material terms. You know, this is something that would be in discussion, you know, with the city manager, and there would be no material, you know, changes to the agreement. So we're just asking for, you know, support to, you know, to move forward with it officially based on those important factors. And
When does the current agreement
Yes, I was gonna ask.
expire?
2021.
2021, and we just.
2 more years? So this will make a 5, so it'll be a total of 5 years. If this being approved will make it 5 years
From now.
from now.
Yeah.
And a couple things, we have never been this close to an expiration. We have always tackled the extension at this time or further back. We've never been less than 2 years on it. There are a couple factors, is one, that both the city has told us they want this event here in perpetuity. We want to keep the event in the city of Royal Oak in perpetuity. You know, the level of feedback that we've had has been extremely positive. The negative feedback has been very, very minor, related to the public, related to the downtown. We have agreed to participate in a meeting with DDA representation related to hear concerns of downtown businesses, and we certainly, you know, make that pledge. The door has always been open, but we specifically want to have a meeting to hear issues or questions, and again, the same arguments, the stability, sponsorship, credibility, having the agreement, and obviously, it protects both of us. It protects you guys from us looking, and it protects us and makes us to have a stronger position with sponsors and partners of the event. So I was asking for a full approval today, if we could.
Yeah, just a couple things real fast. Number one, yeah, I'll speak for myself. I would sincerely appreciate it if there, I know there were a couple concerns last year in fact, with a couple of the board members who unfortunately aren't here, with some tent locations. And to me, it sounds like stuff that with a sit down can easily be worked out and listened to and a resolution come to or an understanding. Secondly, and I can't remember, does the agreement have something with regard to if we move on the 6th and Main parking lot issue? Is that all included in this? Is that in the extension? Or is it just something that we worry about if it happens?
Language in that.
I remember there was language
Yeah,
in it by February.
so the language in the agreement stipulates that, you know, if you guys were to develop that property, that we would have a $50,000 payment from the city. I don't even believe it's from the DDA, so it would be from the city costs, and that can be checked. But there's $50,000 to help us relocate the stage, and I will tell you that that is the last dollar amount we would ever want. There is almost no possible flat space that we could host the national music of an event that has become, you know, the largest event in the state of Michigan, that brings 300,000 people to the downtown, that brings, you know, $2 million of promotion and editorial coverage, that has had no major incidents. And losing that space would be so rough that, again, you know, it does two things. One, it gives us $50,000. It also allows us to get out of the agreement within 1 year of us losing that space. So it's my understanding from discussions that there's not any hot and heavy development plans at this time, and that probably puts a 2 to 3 year window on any ground even being broken, let alone anything. And yeah, I will also state publicly that we prefer to stay there versus making the park, you know, adapt to, you know, what we would like. We like participating in the park process. We think the stage in the park could be a great situation to host parts of the event there in the future, but really that flat surface is great. And if you look at the small amount of space, if you look at state fairgrounds and other venues that host large events, there is flat space. And I would make a case to you, not today, but just sometime down the road, to discuss allowing that space to serve the event, just like state fairs and other events have acres and acres. This is the event that allows us to do national music at a level that is perfect for the city. Not to bring in bands that overwhelm traffic or neighborhoods, that just bring in nationally named bands that really always fit the space of that lot perfectly. You know, and add to the draw. So I did not come here to, I'm answering your question, but I'm also giving you information on our direction for the future. We were relieved to know that that space is there, and that's another reason why the status of the space is another reason why we're so excited to extend the agreement, because there's work to do on the park, and there's a lot of voices, as we've heard already in public comment, and how it gets designed, and you know, we love just where we're at, so I think it serves
So
everything.
the extension will carry the same verbiage then with regard to that parking lot and the same, or,
I just wanted that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is
Yes,
that
yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
okay, okay.
Yeah, and yeah,
All
no
right.
material changes, and
Okay.
again, if there was one, I would love to discuss that and sit down with Dave and Tim and members and discuss, you know how that and your development team and just, you know, talk about, you know, I figured out how many new jobs it is and what the economic impact is, and it's an important part of an event that has become a major part of the identity of the city, just like the city has become a major identity of the event. It's been very mutually amazing.
I agree.
All right, so we don't actually, Director Gillum, have a piece of paper in front of us, so what kind of motion would need to be made in this case?
He's just looking for comments.
Yeah, are you looking for comments?
Or
Are you
for
looking
comments, I mean, conceptually, if you think this is something that you want to explore further, you want to consider formally, then maybe the motion that would be appropriate is be similar to the one that we just approved regarding Rock and Rides, to bring a written agreement back to you at the November meeting.
Okay.
And again, and the agreement is gonna be very short. In fact, I was working on it earlier today. It's just gonna be a second amendment to the restated agreement, and basically it's gonna provide for an extension of the term of the agreement under all the same terms and conditions of the existing agreement.
So it does look to me like we could take the resolution put forth with Rock and Rides and just replace the word Rock and Rides with Arts, Beats, and Eats, and then we
And should be changed
Do the
from
job.
2 to 3 years.
Be for a 3-year extension.
Correct,
yeah.
correct.
And this, again, I think this sends a message to the commission, it sends a message to partners and stakeholders that the relationship between Arts, Beats, and Eats in the DDA is as strong as ever, and you know, we absolutely love it here, and we know not everything suits exactly what everybody needs, but it also, for the vast majority, on a weekend that would be absolutely quiet, otherwise, it really turns things around and just brings a lot of life to the downtown. In fact, the most life of any 4-day event in the state, so.
Okay. Director Sapaya.
Just quick questions for Mr. Gillum. So, because we're looking farther, well, first of all, number one, from what I hear you saying, there's really no substantial changes to the agreement, to the new agreement, as to the old agreement.
Yeah, the only thing that, what staff will bring forward for you at your November meeting is just to extend the agreement for another 3 years.
Okay.
With everything status quo other than that.
And you see no substantial,
Right. I will make one comment that I don't see this as substantial because it's an actual equal win, and I don't need to have this in the agreement, but one of the things that we talked about is that, you know, if we raise the admission price by a few dollars, you guys would have the rights to raise the parking price. Right now, we're at the same level, and I don't think it should be raised at all. You know, we've had 2 tough years of weather, 3 actually, but what we had discussed was having an amendment, and if we raise the admission, you know, our later admission to $10 and simplified our admission, that you guys would have the ability to raise parking from 15 to 20, which is a kind of détente way to make sure that we either agree to do it together or that one of us doesn't do it without the other, because we're just both sensitive to the consumer and where the economy is at the time. So that is one thing we discussed. I wouldn't call that major because it's one thing for each party, would have to approve the other party's increase simultaneously. So we could both find revenue together if we decided to. I mean, that was.
Just one last thing, Mr. Gillum. So I guess, I don't want to say it's a concern, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head that we're, again, looking at a long period out. Are you comfortable that the agreement, I'm not sure what the right terminology is, somewhat amendable or changeable in terms of what may happen 3 or 4 years out from now? And in particularly, in response to the DDA's financial commitment, should something change for whatever reason, one way or another, are we kind of locked into this? Is there the ability to, is the agreement, when we do the agreement this time, we won't see another agreement for another 3 years or so?
Probably until the next time we talk about another extension.
Right, exactly. And I know you asked Mr. Gillum, but I had one comment, but if you wanted to answer first.
You know what I'm saying here is, if something were to change in the parking and, which is the revenue that comes into the city, and there's a substantial change for one reason or another, and then the DDA's commitment and his commitment to pay back the DDA, if that starts to go in a different direction, which I don't anticipate that it will, I'm curious as whether the DDA is totally locked into this.
The agreement is written as is, yeah, the DDA would be committed.
Okay.
So, I guess the only comment I would make, and it's maybe for Mr. Witz to comment on too, is I think the city has always had a very good working relationship with him and his organization, and I think if circumstances change significantly, not to the effect that the agreement could be voided or anything like that, but just to the landscape changed significantly, I'd like to think that we'd all be able to sit down and come to a realistic solution.
I agree.
And just a couple comments. One, I would want to concur with, and I think that goes both ways. First of all, the history is that the taxpayers overall, if you look at all the years combined, there have been a couple of parks garnered, but it's been a completely neutral to positive situation. There might have been 1 year where the DDA was $7,000 or $8,000 behind, but there was 1 year where they were $50,000 ahead. So by far, the agreement has been absolutely neutral and designed as it was meant to be. And the city is paying itself back over parking. It's not
Correct.
us. It's your commitment to do that. So I think there's a history and a track record that states it would be there. If, for example, there was a parking issue and we decided it wasn't in our best interest, but you had your backs against the wall on expenses and you needed to go to $20 because there were less people parking, we would be absolutely open to that if there was a track record of a year or two where you guys were $5,000 or $10,000 behind. I think it's important that we work that way. We might have major sponsorship issues. We might need to reinvent things the way we do it. But the overwhelming comment that I would like to make to you is that it is the best expenditure, even if it was $100,000. If you look at what is spent on events and what that is, if you actually were to spend it, it would be an incredibly valuable and smart thing to do to support its existence. And the great news is for 10 years, you guys, it has been a no taxpayer obligation, no DDA obligation at the end of the year. And so I think that can continue, but if it were ever to change and you looked at what was being invested in to make promotion of the downtown happen, it would be probably one of the best expenditures out there. So anyway, I just wanted to answer to that as well.
I'll make a motion to authorize the DDA staff to prepare a revised agreement for Arts, Beats, and Eats, including the financial commitment that the DDA has made in the past for an additional 3 years. With the understanding the final agreement will be considered next month on the November agenda.
Okay, I got a motion by Director Yazbek.
Second.
By Director. Any discussion?
I have a question. Has it been 10 years?
Yeah, we had our 10th year in Royal Oak. I know, it's
Time flies,
crazy.
huh?
Insane. And again, thanks to public safety and all the work that we've done together. You know, there's been no major incidents or injury with all those people, and it's exciting to have that track record too.
Okay, and so when this comes back to the group up here in November, it'll be a contract, and they'll once again vote on that piece.
We'll get it to Mr. Twing ahead of time. It can be part of the posted agenda. Yes.
All right. Any other questions from anybody? Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could also, Jay, just publicly thank you for your service and the opportunity to work with you on many different projects and discussions in the downtown, and look forward to continuing that in any way possible, and best wishes.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
More time for hot yoga for me now.
Yeah, let's do that. That doesn't sound right, but we
Yeah. Hey, Mr. West, did we get an end date on the auto show?
It's very confusing, so please check it.
It might even go to the 27th, so
Okay.
take a good look at it. I might even be off by a week. It could be the the right middle weekend instead of the end. So.
Okay, on to item number 6, the Stagecrafters sponsorship for 2019-2020.
You've got a recommendation from the Consumer Marketing Committee to sponsor Stagecrafters in an amount of $12,500 for fiscal year 1920. The sponsorship is broken down into 5 different components that are outlined in the memo and the attachments. And there is a suggested resolution very similar to the last 2, that if the DDA supports the sponsorship package in that amount, staff would be authorized to draft an actual agreement for your consideration at the next meeting.
Dr. Riley.
Yeah, questions. I'm gonna support this. I just have questions on it's actually really not about this, but Sean's not here tonight. But with the Royal Oak jingle, so it looks like they're gonna, help with the parade here.
Right.
And the light show. And I'm seeing here that the parade is December 14th, which I think is a Friday night at 6 p.m. Is the parade route on Main? Is that,
Yes.
okay, the parade route is on Main.
Starts at WROK and goes down Main and ends in front of Bright Ideas. I believe.
Okay, and this is, and I'm just gonna interject this here, and I apologize, this has nothing to do with this, again, I'm gonna support this, but this is in general with events in the downtown. Number one, the dates that we still have on the kiosk still haven't been changed yet. Is that something that we're going to get done? I guess, I'm leery of some of our promotion. It seems that, and, you know, maybe I'm caveman and Neanderthal in this, but I'm not on social media. And not being on social media, trying to find out information about events in downtown it should not be as hard as it is. And Mr. Wish just left, but I'm just gonna use him as an example with Arts Beats and Eats. Man, you go on their website and you got a footprint, you got band schedules, you have it all. Was it not, now, in refresh my memory, was the chili cook-off, was that a DDA event, or was that?
We put money towards it.
Okay, like going on there, you couldn't find, all the times were all screwed up. Like, what, did it close at 9, did it close at 10, how long did the bands go? There was, like, the location was a little bit nebulous. And I just think, and I guess maybe, and there's some people out here, I'm not sure if they follow this stuff or not. But if you're not on Facebook, it's kind of hard to find this stuff. And I'm just hoping that we do a good job with this event of getting the word out there of exactly what's going to happen and where, and that we blast it. It should be visible to anybody walking through the streets. It should be on billboards. It should, the darn kiosks at least ought to get the date right. There should be a website set up somewhere where people can click on it and find out times exactly of when everything's gonna go down and what's gonna go down.
Maybe we can ask the chair of the Consumer Marketing Committee to drive that
And
home.
again, I'm not saying, I'm not pointing a finger at any committee or any promoter or anything. It just seems like even, like the vegans and vodka, the promotion on that I thought stunk. I mean, in a word, it stunk.
Okay.
And that's why these, you know, I mean, we sit here and we throw money at these events, and the bottom line is, if, I get, you know, and maybe, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, maybe the 99.9% of the world's on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and they're getting all the info, and they know exactly how late, I mean, for God's sakes, you had the Mega 80s playing out there, and there was like nobody out there. I mean, they play every other week at the Magic Bag, and you can barely get in the place. That says we're doing something wrong promotion-wise, we as a whole group.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I do want to say that you are on social media, you're mentioned quite often. Anyhow, we do have a motion on the table here, and I don't know if there's any other discussion or questions.
I'll just say that we did, Director Bagley and I and Sean met with Alan, I believe his name is, the representative from Stagecrafters, and they were very excited about participating in and being more involved in the events downtown. And I think this reflects they're gonna, a big thing is this holiday jingle and the parade, and they're excited to participate in it, help us decorate. They're gonna sponsor their own float. We're obviously helping them, but just having them involved with their carolers and performers, and the PBS thing we thought was also significant, having PBS in Royal Oak and televising something that's going on in Royal Oak. So a lot of advantages for the downtown. That's, you know, what we try to do is promote the downtown. So yeah, we're very excited about this new partnership.
The one thing I will say about the kiosks, yes, Sean's working with the kiosk sign provider to update those. The other comment I will say is I think it's very important for the DDA and its committees to come up with a promotional and marketing plan at the beginning of the year and stick to it. Then we're not changing things as we go along. The dates that were put on the kiosks were the original dates that were established, and they were changed as we went through the year. So again, I would stress that that's part of the reason for putting together a marketing and promotion plan, and then not get into tweaking it, changing it as we go along.
And again, that I understand, we all understand the reason for the change, and it's something I'm not sure, you know, maybe we're going overkill on that. I mean, I would have just ran over to Rocket Printing and got some gray stickers and put them over there, and it would have been done. I mean, I wouldn't spend a lot of money changing the whole darn signs and getting somebody to screw the sign on and off. You know, those are semi-permanent signs. Little sticker patch, boom, done. Anyway.
Again, I would suggest we not change dates.
Well, the horses left the barn.
Okay, so here we sit. Could use a
Do we have a
motion.
motion?
Oh, we have a motion.
No.
No?
Oh, okay, well, I move to approve.
Okay, a motion by Director Riley, second by Director Hesbick. Any discussion for anybody? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, on to number 7, the contract award, downtown landscape and
I've
maintenance.
asked Joseph Murphy from the planning office to come. Joe's been working with putting the RFP together for the maintenance and landscape plan. He can give you the background to that. It went out for bid pursuant to the infrastructure committee's direction. And Joe can kind of give you a brief overview as how that occurred, what happened with it, and what bids we got back, and then if you've got any questions specifically, we can address them.
Good evening. Worry-Free continues to provide landscaping and maintenance services to the DDA, for the DDA, on a daily basis through the end of November. Their contract, then they have limited hours in December through the end of March of 2020, in which time the contract expires. With this in mind, the DDA discussed this topic several months ago and decided not to negotiate an amendment to the contract with Worry-Free, but to solicit bids to make sure that we're getting a competitive rate for all the services and products that they deliver. So with that in mind, staff did develop a draft RFP that the Infrastructure Committee reviewed at their July 18th meeting. And the RFP was released in late August there was a mandatory pre-bid walkthrough on September the 12th, and that was to ensure that any firm that was responding to the RFP had a full understanding of the scope of services, not simply reading it, but coming out in person, asking questions, walking the entire downtown to have a comprehensive understanding of what was expected of them in their bid response. We had 7 firms attend the mandatory pre-bid walkthrough, and then the bid opening was held on October the 1st, and there was only 1 bid response, and that was Worry-Free. So you'll see Worry-Free's bid response in your packet. The RFP was designed to solicit lump sum prices from all of the firms that wanted to respond. So currently, the contract that the DDA has with Worry-Free has been amended several times over, and it includes a number of man-hours at a man-hour rate or an hourly labor rate for services such as cleaning, picking up garbage and refuse downtown, power washing the sidewalks, planting the flowers, and taking care of the flowers. You also pay separate invoices for all of the products that you purchase, such as topsoil, mulch, flowers, things of that nature. We structured the RFP to, you also pay separately, I should mention, you also pay separately for lawn mowing, fertilizing, some other services as well. We tried to structure the RFP so that we would get a hourly rate and a number of hours per week to accomplish all the tasks required of the contract. And there are, as you can see, they had provided their suggested number of hours in order to complete all of those tasks at their hourly rate. And then they provided rates for products that they provide, such as topsoil, mulch, and what have you. One of the topics that came up at the Infrastructure Committee meeting was the fact that the DDA currently has flower beds, flower barrels, and hanging flower baskets, and whether we wanted to continue with that same structure or whether we wanted to gravitate away from the flower barrels and have more hanging flower baskets. So the RFP was crafted to get 2 responses. One will say to keep the current path, and the opposite to replace the hanging flower baskets with barrels with additional hanging flower baskets. Obviously, that would entail a higher upfront cost in the first year of the contract for them to manufacture and install the additional brackets in lieu of the barrels. The barrels right now are fairly cumbersome. They're stored at a park location with all their soil. They have to be delivered to and from that low storage location at the beginning of the spring, at the end of currently right now. The contract, the RFP response was for 3 years. All of the products that were requested in the RFP, this price structure remains the exact same all 3 years. There's no price increase relative to the products that they purchase. For the first 2 years, their labor rate is $30, and then it increases 3% in the last or the third year of what would be a potential contract. You do have in front of you the totals for the 2 bid alternates. Again, the same path, flower beds, barrels, baskets, and the alternate, which is to eliminate using the barrels and to purchase and utilize more hanging baskets. If you'd like, we can go over any questions that you have or compare their price structure or what we currently pay for products versus what they're proposing in their bid response as well.
I just have one real quick question. Obviously, they're looking at about a 3% increase from the $29 an hour. Yes. I'm assuming, pretty simple math, the 12,000 hours, is that pretty much what we've been paying this year? So would we be around 348,000 for this year? This year's contract?
In total, some of the way we had structured the RFP was to highlight a variety of tasks and then ask all the firms that were wanting to respond to estimate the number of hours that they needed to accomplish all those tasks. Again, currently, we pay separately for things like cutting the grass. And we said, we don't want to get any more separate invoices, and they just put it all, lump it all together. So in the total price, it's very similar in structure, yes.
So, and that's, I mean, this is based on 12,000 hours, pretty much. I mean, that's pretty much straight across the board.
The one additional task that we added to the RFP based on the infrastructure committee's comments was the large open grass area on Main Street, right when you first get off the service drive. That's been taken care of by the Department of Public Service since we created it, and we wanted to dedicate a little more time and energy with a company to be able to take better care of that.
But doesn't Worry Free do the planting down there of the flowers?
They do plant the flowers. They don't cut that long
Got it,
arching
got it,
grass area.
got
So
it.
that would be a new task, and
Okay.
that increases the number of man hours per week for them to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because especially, it makes total sense.
And Joseph, so the bid alternate, that was increasing the number of the hanging baskets, correct?
Yes, the infrastructure committee's thought was to essentially do a one-for-one replacement wherever there's barrels, to eliminate those and put up baskets on nearby poles.
So, just really quick, just to touch on that. So the reason why is because eliminating some of the barrels will create more open space on the sidewalk, simplify it, make it more user-friendly. And then we thought that the baskets would look, nicer visually as you're looking down the street. So it was a win-win in doing something like that.
I agree. And there's a lot of clutter on the ground nowadays. Signs.
So in terms of that, does that eliminate all of the, or just what we designate one for one?
Is what we designate one for one is what we had.
Okay,
Right.
so,
It wasn't all of them. It was just the ones that we identified in that meeting.
Are you referring to the barrels?
Barrels.
yes.
It would be to remove all the barrels.
Okay.
Correct,
I thought it
correct.
was just
Okay, because there was some discussion, and I don't want to rock the boat here, and I don't know whether it would affect or not if the bid structure. There was one of the reasons we wanted to go to the hanging baskets was because, for instance, as an example, on Main Street, all the cars are lined up there all the time, so nobody could see the flowers anyway, because they were right next to the cars and everything. But there were some on the corners that were visible. So I think when we were originally talking, we were talking possibly about
keeping the ones.
keeping maybe the ones on the corners, getting rid of the other ones and replacing those with the hanging baskets. Now, I don't know if that's rocking this
Well,
too hard.
that's not how it was bid. That doesn't mean we couldn't go back to Worry Free and ask them to, but I would need a lot more detail on
As to which one.
which ones and how
Yeah.
many we're keeping, because the way it came out of the committee was leave the barrels that were out there or get rid of them and put up hanging baskets to replace those locations. So there wasn't a hybrid quote.
And I'll say that you were referencing on Main Street, we have numerous raised beds with trees in them. Those beds remain as is.
Well, maybe that's the answer.
It's just the barrels, yes, those remain.
We're
So
just talking about the barrels now.
and you can see in the
There's probably no
RFP,
barrels on the corners.
no, not at all. No, that's why I was confused when you were referring to that.
Okay, so then, if we're talking about the raised bed, we're still maintaining those, keeping those and maintaining those.
Correct,
Then-
yes,
then I'm good.
those are significant, and
Those I'm good, then I'm fine.
And I think as Tim said, I mean, if, it sounds like everybody's in favor of the hanging, we go that direction, and then when spring comes, you decide, hey, it'd really be nice to have a couple of planters maybe still, then you can do that. Sure. But, I mean, it sounds like the majority of the people are.
I don't like you constantly saying you guys, think about it, you guys think about it. It's like you're already checked out.
6 months ago.
included in the RFP is obviously the park design. We don't know what the design will be yet. We'll talk about it tonight. So that would be something that we would do separately or in a different fashion.
Right. Director Sofia.
I'm gonna move the resolution, the enclosed resolution here for the 3-year, to prepare a 3-year contract.
I got a motion by Director Sofia.
I'm gonna, go ahead.
There are two motions in front of you, options.
Oh,
One-
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
Use the bid alternate.
You want
one.
the bid alternate?
You want the bid alternate one.
Yeah. Be resolved, the Royal Oak Downtown Development Authority, DDA, hereby directs staff to prepare a 3-year contract utilizing the purchase of additional hanging flower baskets for its consideration at the November meeting.
So I got a motion by Director Safaya.
I'll second.
I got a second by Director Krieger. Do I have any comments, questions?
Joseph, just to clarify, it's worry-free that it'll be hanging the brackets for the new baskets. It won't have to be DPS, right?
No, correct, that's worry-free, and the nice thing with the brackets versus the barrels is they install the brackets one time and that's it, other than the hanging basket full of flowers, which at the end of the season goes to a storage yard and is much simpler, lighter, and even smaller footprint of storage. That'll be, the installation will be included in their hourly signed hours during the week. It won't be an additional cost for them to install that at all.
Director Safaya.
Just one last comment. I think the DDA here is done its due diligence on this. We sent this out for bid, and I think we are happy with where it ended up as a whole. So I'm ready to move forward with this.
Anybody else? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Joseph. Okay, on to number 8, the downtown park conceptual designs.
I think it'll take a couple minutes for everybody to load. It's a pretty big file.
It'll take a while,
so.
yeah.
What I will say, and Jay is a member of the committee, so he can talk about it too. I added it to the agenda. The Downtown Task Force received this presentation, I believe on the 10th.
Yes.
And I wanted it to get it in front of the DDA for your potential input on the various conceptual designs. There are 3 conceptual designs with various layouts and components. You are paying the debt service on what is covering the costs of the park and the connectivity portion to the tune of some $737,000 a year. So your input would be appropriate. I don't know, there's several pages here. The first part of it is the concepts they went through to arrive at, or the things they looked at to understand, to arrive at the 3 concepts. And the last page is a next steps type page. They have shadow studies that are included of the buildings that are proposed around it in the presentation. As I said, there are 3 actual concept designs. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at some of those.
Can you tell me when the next park meeting is?
Yeah, I don't know that one's been scheduled yet. So one thing that's gonna need to happen today, guys, is you're gonna need to appoint someone else, or we're gonna need to appoint someone else to that committee, because I'll be gone. I can tell you there was 3 concepts presented. I thought all 3 were pretty good in their own right. I didn't really have one favored over the other. Everyone did include some type of water feature. Everyone did involve moving the memorial to some way, some more, some further than others. We didn't really get into the weeds. We didn't we offered more general feedback at this meeting. I have not personally gave any solid feedback to the committee, knowing that I'd be leaving. I also knew that last Wednesday they did have the meeting at the farmer's market, or the booths, as Mrs. Hennessy referred to, where they talked about where we were getting public feedback.
They had the boards there. The one thing I would also point out is the boundary of what they should be looking at needs to expand to the west. I don't have a map here that I can show you, but the segment that's between the new parking deck and the Bogie building for Henry Ford Services, that portion of what used to be 2nd Street, there's a portion in there that should be part of the park design west of the Star Dream statue up to the entrance to the new parking deck.
Oh.
All that is planned for the parking deck is the walkway that's currently there. that 5-foot concrete walkway. And the Bogie Building is gonna construct one on the north side of their building, or the south side of what was Second Street, very similar to match it. The entire rest of the area in there is not planned and has no plans for anything, and so it needs to be part of the park. The other part of the extension is in the west edge of the park, should include what shows up on the concept plans as hard surfacing over to the Bogie property line. There is no plan for a hard concrete walkway in that segment either, so their boundary line needs to shift on all these concepts. The other thing I'll remind the DDA of is the connectivity portion of the plan has already bid and awarded the improvements along Troy Street from 11 Mile to 3rd, and they've already awarded the contract for the installation along the north side of 3rd Street from Troy Street to the Bogie property. So those elements are designed and bid and under contract with Colasani to build as part of their contract, doing City Hall and the police building.
Sitting on this?
Yeah, I don't know, we might be talking about the same thing here, but being that there's not another park committee meeting scheduled at this point, unless there's some objection here at the table, I'd like to see this get sent back to infrastructure, where we can spend a little bit more time with it, and maybe come up with, you know, a couple ideas or suggestions or thoughts that we can bring back to this group and see if everybody agrees with those, and then we can forward them on to whoever sits on the park committee.
And my only concern a little bit was if you go to the last page on the next steps and look at their timeline, not that it's hard and fast, but item 3 was determine a preferred design option hybrid by mid-October. 4 was finalize a preferred design park by early November. I'm not sure if that's their intended.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, that's why I asked the question about the next meeting.
Well, I guess the question would be, does anybody feel comfortable with us making a decision right now at this table?
No, I
Which one
just,
we prefer?
maybe your decision is to ask that they extend it to give you that time.
Well, yeah, I would think, number one, the first question I would ask, and maybe you don't want to, but it just, if Jay is not on the DDA, does that mean he can't be on the park committee anymore, or do you not just,
I really think you should have a member of
It's a
a
DDA
director,
appointment.
a director sitting
So
up
you,
there.
so you want off that committee?
It's not that I want off it, but I do
No,
think
we
it's
passed
best.
a resolution.
Yeah.
We passed a resolution
Okay.
months ago
All right,
to appoint him, so
Okay.
if he's not gonna sit on it, then.
You have 3 commissioners on that committee. You
Okay.
have 2 members of the Parks and Rec Board. You have an architect, and I think we need to have a director, a voting director on that board.
do we want to make a motion now to who your replacement's gonna be?
You can do that.
I would move
I
Director
would-
Kruger if he wants to do it.
Okay, but I would just suggest that if the infrastructure committee wants to meet about this, that you do it really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, and then maybe here today, we authorize the infrastructure committee to give that direction to whoever is gonna be the representative, because I have a feeling that next meeting is gonna come up. They come up pretty quick.
Okay.
So, I mean, sometimes you get a week and a half notice, so, if you wanna try to do this, so that could be a tough one. That could,
I find it hard to believe that we've got a gun to our head right now and we can't have an infrastructure committee.
well,
meeting.
no, I don't think we've got
First of all, without sounding like a total jackass, we're the ones funding the darn thing. They can, so,
Right.
this is what we
That's what I was
wanna
gonna say. I think Tim suggested we can ask for them to push this back, and I think that's a.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead and
That's
do that.
exactly
I
what I
still would
wanna do,
suggest
yeah.
you, one, appoint someone new, or we vote to.
Well, we're trying.
appoint- I know.
Yeah.
2, that you meet on it quickly, because there is a schedule.
Point well taken.
And I think we can do that. The committee consists of 4
Right.
members, so I think we can put something together fairly quickly. Yeah.
Okay, so,
So motion, I would make a motion to appoint Director Krieger to the committee and also to ask whoever to push these dates back so that the DDA can consider the conceptual designs.
Okay.
Is that okay in one motion, Tim?
It's okay with me.
I'll support that.
Okay, we got a motion by Director Yazbek, a second by Director Riley. One, to appoint Director Krieger as our new representative, and two, to ask the, I guess you would go to Greg or the Parks and Rec Director, I guess, to see about pushing the meeting back. Is there any kind of date that maybe you could give them, or?
Well, at least to the November DDA meeting.
Right,
So that you
which-
can
whichever-
formally act on it.
Which is, I'm not sure when that is, but
Hang on,
Third Wednesday.
It's early, I know that.
It's like the 20th, I think.
Yes, it is the 20th, not that early.
it's not that early.
All right, well, whatever.
And I guess the only other question, I'd want to make sure that Jason doesn't feel he's got a conflict because of some of the other work he's done serving on. I just want to make sure you don't think you do, or.
I don't feel like I have a conflict, but what do you think, Dave?
I'm not aware of one, but I told Tim I think we probably should check with you and make sure you were comfortable with it, that's all.
Yeah.
if you're comfortable with it, we're
Yes.
comfortable with it.
It's a separate project that we're not working on.
And frankly, I think you'd represent much better than I'd represent. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have any further discussion? Tanya, you have anything? No? Okay. You gotta remember you're over there, because I apologize.
And I'm not,
Golf, there's a golf.
I'm not on the infrastructure committee, but just to make sure that we consider the important, issues that were mentioned
Absolutely.
at public
I agree.
comment and.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And I will tell you, in sitting that meeting, I'm not so sure, and I think Ms. Hennessy brought it up, I'm not so sure that the group out of, that came up with this idea is really well aware of what that memorial means. So, let's just keep that in mind as well, so. All right, any further comment? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. On we go to the committee updates. We got the Consumer Marketing Committee. Did we just kind of have all that?
Yes.
This happens every meeting, doesn't it? The Infrastructure Committee.
I don't have my notes for last meeting. I don't,
Last meeting was August, so.
I was gonna say,
So it's been a while.
yeah, this said 10:10, that's why I got confused.
Yeah,
Because I don't think we met.
no, what was the item you talked about on the 10th?
Was
There
it
was
the,
one item that we
was
talked
it the
about.
worry-free
Yeah.
thing? Or-
Could have been.
I think
Yeah,
it was,
I-
guys. I think we covered it with the worry-free.
I think
Yeah,
so
that-
too, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was that,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I don't think business marketing met either.
No, Business Marketing, I don't believe Matt.
Nope.
No. The last one we had was, back in August, which we already reported on.
All right, so let's close up that and go on to number 10. A Downtown Manager Report.
Sean was out sick today, so.
Sean's out sick. If you want to look it over, if there's any questions, I think a lot of you are probably aware of most of what's going on here. There isn't anything on here about stickers on wayfinding signs, but I can guarantee you.
Well, I know that
He
it's
talked
going
to me
on.
about it, and it's
Yeah.
Johnson,
That's what I would
sign
do.
companies, talk to them.
Yeah.
That's a
So-
no-brainer.
Yeah. Director Riley will be out there with a permanent marker.
No time at all, man. Called patching kits.
Okay,
Got it. Okay.
all right. 10B, you're welcome.
Thank you much.
Yes.
That's been
9
fun.
years, right? 9 years? 10 years?
Almost 9.
Almost 9?
A couple meetings short of 9 years, yeah. Plenty long enough. We'll get some fresh blood up here one way or the other, so. I do want to say a couple things. A couple things I'd like to see you guys do would be the deck parking. Monday through Thursday, let's see if we can extend the free parking till 7 o'clock. That's why we haven't made signs yet, right? So, Monday through Thursday, free parking in the decks, first 2 hours, if you're in there before 7 o'clock. That will help out the library a great deal as well. I think that's something, I think we should look at it, but I really think it should just be done. And I think you guys should just do it and put it out there, and let's see what happens, and we've talked about it. I think it just needs to get done. Two, I'd like to see you guys, we've started looking at those alleys, but, the alley between Fourth and Fifth, I mean, that's like battle zone. The other ones aren't much better. And I think those are real important. Third and fourth, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Third and Fourth, and I've been made aware of a business that's possibly pouring grease down a storm drain there as well. So, it's a dangerous place to walk, especially in the evening, but I think to make it look nice, like what we've done between 11 and Third, 11 and Third, yes, would be good. So I'd like to see us really move ahead on the alleys. As far as the park goes, I would urge Director Krieger and the Infrastructure Committee to strongly look at those plans and see if there really is a good reason to move that memorial. It's hard for me, I'm not a landscape architect, to look at that and kind of figure it out. Or at least work a little bit with the memorial group and just see, and let's make sure they're heard. And other than that, I don't know, was there anything else I wanted to? I guess.
Still time to reconsider?
What's that?
The lamps between Fourth.
Oh, yeah, those lamps, and George Gomez left, but I think it's on our list to
Well,
get those.
engineering, there's several things I guess I can give you an update on if you want them, but the lights on Fourth Street that are out, engineering has completed their plans for the improvements to actually replace them and do the work. Some of the work can't be done over the winter, so it's scheduled to be done in the spring, the entire thing. And that's tearing up the curb, getting down to the conduit, because the conduit was, my understanding, metal conduit that corroded and rusted and just collapsed, and there's no way to pull new wires and things like that. So the schedule for it is early spring of 2020 to get all of that fixed and put back together on 4th Street. Very similarly, they're putting together a plan for the brick paver replacement downtown and working on the details of that for next year. In terms of the traffic signal mast arms, they're going to the City Commission for approval of an MDOT funding agreement coming up here this month. If that's approved, the 3 intersections along 11 Mile, Troy Street and 11, Main and 11, and Washington and 11 will get mast arm traffic signals very similar to the one that enters into the parking deck. And you've funded, provided money for that from the DDA to put in the mast arms rather than the standard traffic signals. And then in 2020, using a very similar program, which would probably the work wouldn't get done until 2021, would be the 4 intersections along South Main that have traffic lights, so it's very, very, very similar. So that's the current schedule on those items. The commercial space and the parking deck, the construction plans are being put together based on the DDA and City Commission's directive. There is no plan for a restaurant in that space.
It's a white box.
We just wanted to make sure that if there was need for a kitchen or cooking facilities, that it could be done, that the HVC and things were there to take care of that if that's where you went. The intent of the DDA is really to white box the space and put restrooms and bathrooms in it so you can actually start using the space and the city can start using the space. That's all you're doing with it. As soon as those construction documents are done, based on your prior approvals, we'll send it out for bid and hopefully get a price that's affordable and finish it off so that it's a usable space. Whether the city chooses to lease it out to some other tenant or not, it's up to the city, but the DDA's role is to get it into a usable space at this point. A couple other items, I guess. Sean will have a replacement bike ramp plan for you shortly, hopefully through the infrastructure committee. I'll look at it again too. So, and then one last item, we did meet with Ron Harwood from Intel Lighting Systems regarding the smart lighting. If some of you may recall, the decorative lights were talking about the ability to have, I won't call them spotlights, but lights that can change colors on the side of them so that you can light the sidewalks or the buildings, depending on what you want to do with them. The committee that met with them wanted them to look at 2 intersections as well as the area around the park, and see what kind of cost it would take to do that. In addition to those lights, they would have the ability to have speakers on them as well as video and audio capabilities so that you could listen or talk or have cameras on some of them. So all of those items are, we're waiting for costs to come back. I guess that's probably and you've approved a few other things, so I don't know if you've noticed, but the holiday lights are going up. English Gardens is putting them up based on your plans, so.
Did you mention monthly garage passes?
Oh, I know, and we had talked about this, Tim, at one point, but I might be under this understanding that's already happening, is that there was a embargo on how many monthly passes were being sold for the garages, but then I thought I was told that had been waived.
I can check and make sure,
But I know we don't have an official vote here on this, but I see no reason with all the vacancies in the garages why we.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they're holding it back, but
Right.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so that would be another thing. And going back to the space that we're building out in the garage over here, there never was an intention to put any restaurant in there. What it was a kitchen, so if a group was gonna be having, like, take the Historical Society, maybe was gonna have a dinner there, you know, one of the local restaurants could come in and serve food from that area, and there was never an intention to be a restaurant in there. Can I guarantee you that, you know, it's not gonna be under our control, that that'll never happen, but that was never our intention, far from it, to ever have a restaurant in there. And lastly, the last couple things is just, I wanna talk about real quick, is the events. I would like to have us take a close look at the Christmas event this year, and this will be our 3rd event. And I'm nothing against the plan, I think it's all fine, but I think we should look carefully about, does it make sense to have a Christmas event going forward if this doesn't work? I mean, it's kind of all over in an hour, and it costs a lot of money, and I think we would agree. And last year, not to the promoter's fault, the weather didn't cooperate with her plan, but I think we would have been better, you know, I think it was 50 grand. We could have, like, you know, handed out $100 bills to like 500 people, and I think that would have been better, you know, so.
Did you say all over in an hour?
Just about, I mean.
But it's a 2-day event.
I know, but you got the parade and whatnot. I'm just saying I'm wondering if the money might better be spent, like, you know, free parking or something else, something a little, you know, maybe do a bigger event for the tree lighting. But I'm not entirely sold on something that's done in December, and it's very weather dependent, and it's a lot of money. I'm gonna leave it to you guys. There's my parting opinion, and you can tell me I'm totally wrong. So, hang on.
I guess one last item. We are waiting, DTE is drafting an agreement. Some of you may recall that we're planning on putting lighting on their poles in the alley from 3rd to 11 Mile Road, so that you can light that up and potentially change the colors or do something special with it. But the first part of that was we needed an agreement with them to put those on their poles, and they're putting that together. I was hoping to have it this week, but I'm kind of at their mercy as to when I get it. When we get it, we'll bring it to the board for your review and consideration, so.
Isn't one of the poles coming down or something?
I believe there might be one more that needs to move, but it's by the Bogey building, so.
Okay.
Anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll ask Director Krieger if he has anything.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Director Krieger. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Sabaya. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Good night.